You know what? I'm not saying Bradford looked good, but dude throws a pretty ball, and I like watching him play quarterback because when he zips the ball, it looks good. I'll say that. He checked it down too much. Fine, I'll admit that. But he's a
Brett just got physically ill when you said Bradford.
All right, I think are we going to talk about the sack when Remmers got backed into Bradford's lap? Are we going to make a judgment on that? Because I thought he could have stepped up and avoided it.
Agreed.
My positive take. Anyway.
I cannot believe you had you picked Bradford as a positive takeaway. Are you kidding me?
That was for you. Anyway.
Are you trying to bait me into getting really pissed off during this episode or something? Or what?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Vikings Territory Roundtable, episode 22. My name is Brett Anderson, and as usual, I'm joined by some of my favorite guys who just also happen to be Vikings gurus. Tonight we got Sam. By the way, I'm going to go. We don't usually do this, but I'm going to go around and you guys can just kind of wave as I say your name. I wanted to start like letting people know who you are a little better. You know what I mean? I'm trying to help you build your brand. So we got Sam, we got Austin, we got BJ, we got Sean, and we got Drew. I didn't say last names, so I didn't really help your brand all that much.
I didn't say my last name.
Oh, well. All right, so there's been a lot that's happened since the last time we had an episode, so we got a lot to talk about tonight. Primarily, we're going to be recapping the most recent game, the dress rehearsal, as they call it, against the 49ers this past Sunday. But first, really quick, I feel like kind of owe everyone an explanation on the schedule. We had talked about doing those live shows after every game, including the preseason games, but I think when we said that, at least I didn't realize that these games weren't going to be getting over till after midnight or after 10 p.m. on, the Game of Thrones season finale night. So needless to say, we didn't do those past two live episodes. So I apologize for that, but we are going to be doing those during the regular season after every game. Promise we'll be here doing our live recaps where you guys get to come on the show, you get to chat, put your questions in while we're doing the show. So anyway, now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about this game. So the Vikings had their first game at US Bank Stadium of the season against the 49ers. Ultimately, we got that all-important preseason W at the last minute, thanks to base god Taylor Heineke, BJ's favorite player. But as you guys know, if you watch the game, all of those points came in the second half from the second teamers against second teamers. And the first half of that game was pretty difficult to watch. Both sides of the ball were pretty rough, did not look good. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of kind of what went wrong, what went right for that game. But first, at least for me, like when we're talking about these preseason games, I think one of the most important things is we come out on the other side with everyone healthy. So I wanted Sean really quick. Sean, if you could just kind of recap, since this was kind of the last preseason games, or maybe the last preseason game with the starters. We might talk about that a little later too, based on some things Zimmer said today. But since it was kind of probably the last time we'll see the starters putting in a lot of time, what kind of injuries are we looking at, Sean, moving into the regular season?
Well, that's one area where we shouldn't be concerned is the injury department because no major injury news coming out of the game. Sunday. As far as players coming back from injury, we had Latavius Murray coming back. He was kind of eased back into action. 2 carries, only 6 yards. 2 catches, 10 yards. He could have had another, but he was ruled out of bounds before he caught it. Treadwell coming back. Had a pretty significant game. 3 catches, 36 yards. As well as Riley Reef, who overall had a pretty decent game.
So,
go ahead, Brad.
So no new injuries from that game? Sam, are you eating? I'll allow it as long as you mute.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you muted. You're allowed to
muted.
eat.
No, it's all good. Continue. I'm listening to Sean. I'm learning.
As far as players who didn't practice today, Dayton Jones didn't practice. He had a leg injury. Brian Robinson was limited, as well as Trey Waynes. Emmanuel Lamour had a concussion.
He's going to be cut.
So he's going through the protocol. Anthony Harris and Rudolph as well had leg injuries, so they did not practice.
So really, like, we're headed into the regular season in a pretty good spot, right? I mean, as far as injuries go. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That was really it. I just want to update on where some of those injuries were at, and kind of what we sustained this past game, because I don't know, I think that's kind of important. But all right, so like we talked about, there was a lot that went wrong in this first half. It was really difficult to watch. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of go into panic mode early in this game when I see all this stuff kind of unfolding in front of me. Our dress rehearsal, our last chance to see the starters, and they came out and they looked completely flat on both sides of the ball. So I kind of want to start off this episode with the negative in this game. So let's just talk about what you guys think went wrong, who looked bad. Austin, you kind of do the who looked bad or what went wrong every week. So maybe starting with you is a good spot to do that. We're going to start with Mr. Positivity and go to him first with the negativity.
It's probably a bad idea to start with me because I'm not necessarily in panic mode. But
right.
Mike Remmers, I thought, looked bad. I thought Alex Boone looked bad. I thought who else on the offensive line? Joe Berger didn't look great, I didn't think. David Morgan didn't look great. So there's kind of a trend there of people in the front blocking for Sam Bradford, run blocking. And then defensively, I don't know. Defensively, it was weird because Trey Waynes let a bunch of balls go past him and get caught, and I didn't think he looked necessarily bad. He was in position. He just didn't make plays. Harrison Smith looked a little too aggressive, I thought. Got beat a couple times. But it wasn't anything that made me go, oh, you know, the season's lost. We're going to lose it. I just thought a couple players looked bad, and it was just a crap game from everybody because of it.
Yeah, I think I reacted a little differently than you, but we'll get to that a little later.
You can tell by your voice.
BJ, what did you think, man? Like, I mean, I don't know. A lot went wrong, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah. It was as sloppy of a dress rehearsal game as you're going to see. Vikings first team offense and first team defense didn't look good at all. There's a lot of mistakes and a lot of like mental errors, which is the weird part for me, especially on defense. You saw a lot of just communication issues going on between guys like Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. I think Trey Waynes was in the wrong spot at the wrong time once. And obviously, I think it looked like Xavier Rhodes was trying to pass off coverage to Harrison Smith on that Marquise Goodwin touchdown, but it sounded like Zimmer was giving it to Xavier on that play, but in my opinion, that looked like a communication error between Rhodes and Smith that probably should be blamed on both parties there. It just was a sloppy performance overall. No one really stood out on the first team. Obviously, you only got 3 points from Sad Bradford-led offenses during the preseason here. I'm not against seeing the offense come back out and play again in week 4 of the preseason because there's still some rust to shake off, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I think I said when we were chatting about it earlier, like I love because for those that don't know, Zimmer came out today, suggested that because of the first team's poor performance in this past game, that we may see him again in game 4. Game 4 is usually, you know, as you guys know, that game where all the starters sit and we're really just kind of getting a close look at those guys on the bubble as the team's trying to make, decisions on 90 to 53. But I don't know, like starting them in the 4th game, I think they probably deserve it because they didn't play well. But again, you're also risking, you know, major injury in a pointless game. What do you think, Drew? Like, do you think their performance warranted being played again in the 4th game this week? Or
well, I don't think it should impact whether the starters play in the 4th game or not. I don't think it's ever smart to play guys when you don't need to. I think you have your one dress rehearsal. You see what you have to work on, and then I think the 4th preseason game is for your bubble guys, the guys that are fighting for a roster spot where you have to make those tough decisions. You give your guys one last chance to prove it, and you give them the full 60 minutes or close to the full 60 minutes. So regardless of how things went week 3, I mean, if it was very good, very bad, whatever, I don't think it should impact week 4 if the starters play or not. So that's my take on that, but I would agree with everybody else that things were ugly.
What was the biggest, what was the ugliest part to you?
I was actually disappointed with Bradford a little bit, but I think there was a lot of things that impacted that. Stephon Diggs dropped a couple passes. And then defensively, I thought Kendricks and Rhodes on the long touchdown to Goodwin and Smith, too, were beat or in the wrong spot. more often than usual. So not good all around, but it's not something where I'm concerned because it's preseason. I really don't think the coaching staff even prepared for this game. I think they're just mostly. I feel like that's what preseason does. I feel like Kyle Shanahan and company were preparing for the Vikings, and I feel like the Vikings coaching staff did not prepare for the 49ers. So maybe that's just an optimistic take, but I think that's what happened.
I got to say this, Brett, before you tell me I'm too optimistic, but I think that's true because I just went back and looked, and here's what Zimmer said. I'm quoting. He said, "I've never really felt the need to game plan in the third game. We just go out there and do what we do. I think it's good to see how the team reacts to scenarios that are not prepared for. That's kind of how we've done it since we've been here. We still have work to do on us. So for us to take a week and work on San Francisco like we would in a season game, I think it is counterproductive." So I was talking to Sam about this earlier, and I kind of talked to you about it too, Brett, but there's this whole idea that the Vikings came out and they looked unprepared, and I think they did come out and look unprepared. I thought it was sloppy. I thought that the Niners came out like a team with a scripted game plan, with the idea that they were going to treat this like a regular season game because it was a rookie head coach, a first-year head coach trying to, create this identity and create this way of doing things for the Niners that Zimmer doesn't necessarily feel the need to do. So I felt like we were looking at the Vikings being vanilla and the Niners being, like an ice cream sundae, just two completely different beasts out there. And that doesn't excuse some of the stuff that happened, but I think within the context of it, the Vikings looked bad because they weren't prepared, and that was by design in a way.
I absolutely hate this argument.
That's fine.
Like, we're kind of jumping ahead, and I guess that's fine because one of the later questions was like, is it time to press the panic button on this team based on what we saw? I don't buy that, man. And let me tell you why I don't buy it. Okay. Because the things that we're seeing, the things that the team isn't doing. Am I like? I'm going crazy right now. The thing that the team
take your time.
Isn't doing well. Wow. See, I'm all worked up. All right. I feel like it's not things that are as a result of not having a game plan, right? Like they're losing in one-on-one situations. It's just guys getting beat. It's just guys along the O-line getting beat every single play. It's cornerbacks not being able to play man coverage. It's Trey Waynes getting beat. It's Mackenzie Alexander getting beat. It's the linebackers looking like they don't know what they're doing out there. I feel like a lot of these things aren't results of not having a game plan. It's just simply they're not playing well. And I'd also be less concerned about it if if these things that we were seeing in preseason weren't concerns that we already had prior to going into the preseason, right? Like the offensive line looking like crap. They looked like crap before, you know what I mean? So to say it's a result of them not having a game plan, I don't buy that. Like they're just getting beat.
Sam,
go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, well, offensive line, I'll give you, but here's why it doesn't concern me too much. Because I understand what you're saying, Brett. First of all, I do agree with Austin. Kyle Shanahan treated this like it was a real game, ended up losing anyway.
Do we know that for sure?
No, we don't know it for sure. We're all speculating. It's an echo chamber, but I agree with it. So, but anyway, here's why it doesn't concern me too much about the players getting beat. If it were the marginal players getting beat, I'd be worried more. It was the good players getting beat. Do you think you're going to see Xavier Rhodes get beat deep by a player like Marquise Goodwin a lot this season? I don't. I'm not worried about that. Carlos Hyde ain't beating Harrison Smith on a seam route for a touchdown. It's not going to happen during the season. So, yeah, they were unprepared. Yeah, there were some mental errors. I just think it's because it was the preseason. I know that's a rosy outlook probably. I'm not concerned about Harrison Smith getting abused the way he did on 2 long passes against the 49ers. Are you?
Yeah, but you picked 2 players and two plays. 2
touchdowns.
Right.
Those were the touchdowns.
Right, but even beyond those 2 plays, they looked like trash all around.
Agreed. Those were 2 examples, right? So I'll give you the offensive line. It didn't look great. Some parts did, but I just think part of it has to do with the fact that they came out and Austin read what Zimmer said. I mean, they didn't game plan, and I think that maybe in this case, Brett, that matters a little more than you're giving it credit. Because the 49ers aren't bad. I know they were a bad team. They play in the NFL.
They're better. They're a lot better than they were last year.
Right.
A lot better.
And the margin between bad players in the NFL and really good players is not that high. So it's not like it's college where you have 100 and some teams. These guys are all really good. So if one team's game planning and another team isn't, it doesn't at all surprise me what happened in the first half.
And I also think a defense is susceptible when you've got a scheme, and I know BJ can talk about Shanahan's scheme, but a scheme like that you haven't prepped for or seen all season when you've seen, Sam Bradford taking 3-step drops and firing it short all preseason, all off season. And then you come out here and you've got, multiple play actions, you've got boot actions, you've got moving pockets, you've got all these different things that, like, I can understand why players like Kendricks and Barr are miscommunicating, because they haven't seen these since at least last year or the year before when they played the Falcons or other schemes like this. So mental errors by players like that, I get. Problems I have are Mike Remmers continuing to get beat, Sam Bradford checking it down, not having enough time to pass it. I think there's issues, but I also think that a lot of it can be attributed to situation and this idea that I believe that Shanahan, a first-year head coach, treated this like a regular season game when Zimmer said, you know what, screw it. We're too focused on position groups, battles, the bottom of the roster, things like that. That's my take. I don't, no one has to agree with me. I could be crazy, but
why do you think Zimmer approaches the preseason game that way? And is it in the team's best interest to approach the dress rehearsal with a lax attitude, or where you're not?
I think it's more about, he makes it more about game situations than the final score. So I think he tries to win like each series versus like total outcome of the game.
Right, and I get that, but like
players in there, I think when you have different players in there throughout the game, then you get your bubble guys at the end of the game. They're playing those close game situations most of the time. So I don't know. I really don't think he cares about his 14-2 record now in the preseason or something. I really don't think he cares about it at all.
And I really don't. And I honest guys, like I know I'm probably coming off as a guy that is reading way too much into the preseason. I honestly could care less about the score. I really don't care that we won that game on Sunday. I don't care if we go 0-4 in the preseason. I don't care about the final score of the games. I just feel like, when you're looking at these individual players and you're looking at these units and these position groups, they're not looking good. Overwhelmingly, they're not looking good, save for the defensive line basically, and maybe the receivers, although that's questionable after this past third game. I feel like across the board the team is looking not good. So I don't know. So let's ask this, okay? My question was, is it time to press the panic button based on what we've seen this preseason? I've obviously already pressed it.
Yes.
Do you guys have you guys pressed it, Sean?
No, not at all. It's the preseason. It's before the season. That's why it's called the preseason. But no, it's definitely not the time to panic. Look at it compared to last year. Teddy Bridgewater, today or tomorrow, supposedly suffered his injury. So, things are looking up in that regard. Oh, true. But look at it this way. He's getting better now. So he's on the road to recovery. Way too early to press the panic button.
Are you saying I should wait until after we have a crazy injury tomorrow to press the panic button? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, at least, yeah.
All right. Sam?
No, I will not even entertain the question about panicking about preseason. But since you mentioned the injuries,
wow,
can I touch on the fourth preseason game, playing the starters real quick?
Sure.
That is a terrible idea. What are you punishing them? What is this, high school? You're going to make them run the hill after practice because they didn't play that well? These are professional athletes. You're Zimmer. You try to be all hard. Oh, I'm going to punish him and play him in the fourth preseason game. Great. Then the starter gets hurt. How does that look? That looks awesome because you've been lucky enough to escape without a major injury up until this point. And now you're going to risk it again and I will say this about the fourth preseason game, as far as starters go, meaningless game. So this is, I think the fact, I don't think we'll see him, but I think the fact that Zimmer's even considering it based on what he said is part of the fact that a thing that we've seen with Mike Zimmer is that he's too often tries to be the tough guy, and I think he has room to grow as a leader, and just room to grow as a sort of someone who can get the best out of people. He has one speed, and that's the tough guy. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. If you go out and punish your players and play them the 4th preseason game, your starters, and somebody major gets hurt, the tough guy thing doesn't look so cool. So it's a terrible idea, and I hope he comes around. That's all.
I think we'd all pretty much agree with that, right?
Would we?
Yeah.
Like,
To some degree, I mean, to some extent, I think that Sam is dramatizing a little bit because I don't think he's as much of a hardo. But I think that I definitely agree with the premise of what Sam's playing, and for effect, he's doing a great job of explaining his theory as well. I think that he makes a lot of good points there.
Thank you.
I don't think I'm with you, Sam. I don't think the 4th preseason game matters at all either. But I do think these guys could afford to get some more reps. And the point that I'm making with this isn't that I think that starters should go out there and play a couple series again in the 4th preseason game as a quote punishment. I just simply am saying that I won't be mad if they are out there. I think that the escape with injury theory is fair. But I think that there is enough rust on some of these players. Latavius Murray being one of them, a guy that hasn't seen action in a long time. Laquan Treadwell could probably afford to get a few more routes in there against live competition. I think that we could see Mackenzie Alexander probably could afford to be out there in the slot a little bit more and be reacting as opposed to knowing what's coming up against them like they do during practice. I just think there's some guys that need more reps. Sam Bradford, not one of them. We know what he can do. Marcus Sherrills on punt return, I could not believe he was out there after 1. I mean, you know exactly what Marcus Sherrills brings to the table. Put Stacey Coley out there and help him, try to allow him to earn himself a roster spot with that type of, being a backup punt returner, that type of thing. So to some extent, I agree with what you're saying. To some extent, I agree with what Austin was saying prior. I mean, and to the fullest extent, I agree with what Sean said. I'm never going to panic after a preseason game. It's the preseason. It's preseason, as Sean explained.
Okay. I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm obviously the only
I want to
one.
agree with you, Brett, but I'm not one to panic.
I know, but I feel like it's such a cop-out to say it's preseason. It doesn't mean anything, right? Like, it means something. The final
the
score
Detroit Lions went 4-0 in the preseason.
I know, but I don't
2008.
I've already said, I don't care about the record. I could care less about the record, but that doesn't mean, and I could care less about the score, but that doesn't mean that what's happening on the field is without meaning.
I would bet the Lions fans in 2008 preseason were all in. They were like, all right, playoffs, NFC North right here. Here we go.
No, look, we're all smarter. Look, we're smarter than that. Okay, look, if we went 4-0 this preseason and the first team offense hadn't scored a touchdown, which they haven't, none of us would feel good about the 4-0 record. Or an informed Vikings fan would not feel good about the 4-0 record, which is what I like to think we are, and most of our viewers probably are. Okay, so, some box score people checkers might think, oh, the Vikings are looking really good. They're 4-0 this preseason. But I just hate the whole thing that it's preseason. It has no meaning whatsoever. If it has no meaning whatsoever, why are we even putting starters out there at all? Let's get rid of it.
It has meaning for the bubble guys and who you're going to pick to be on your 53-man roster.
And what you do in the preseason is supposed to be some sort of foreshadowing as to what players are going to do during the regular season. Yeah. I mean, we talked all about the bad things so far. How about Dalvin Cook? I mean, I know that I keep bringing up Dalvin Cook as being like a really good player and projecting high results from this guy, but how good has he looked in limited action? It's a small sample size, yes, but we've seen him use his vision well. He's been a patient runner. He's run well out of the shotgun, out of the single back, and the I form. He's caught the ball out of the backfield. How good has he looked? That we were able to find out from playing in the preseason, despite the offensive line not blocking very well in front of him. Stuff like that. That's why the preseason has value to me, is because now we can kind of project that Dalvin Cook is ready to be a feature back.
So the preseason has value if there's positive takeaways.
Here's the thing. The preseason should not affect your win-loss prediction record. 1 win, 1 loss. It should not. You can look at individual players, individual performances, and take some things away, but it should never be that much of an impact where you're taking a win away from or gain a win in your.
All right, Sam, you're going to have to send me back that record prediction so I can modify my paragraph there.
I agree that it's concerning. I agree we've seen things that are concerning it should worry us that they will continue into the regular season. The thing that I don't know how much is going to translate into the regular season is that they're not playing whole games. Take the offense, for example. We know this offense isn't that good. We're hoping they're okay. Don't you think that 3 drives isn't enough for them to get into a rhythm? They can't just turn it on and off like a light switch. I think they're going to need more time to get into a rhythm, and we're only seeing the beginnings of that, so they don't have time to do that.
So there's a concern. There's an inherent concern there of not being able to start fast, right?
Isn't that a concern within itself that the offense needs a half to get up to speed to do something?
I think
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree that yes, that's a concern. But if this team's trying to win games with defense and ball control, they don't necessarily need to get started on the offensive side of the ball until the second half. They're playing good defense, which they were against both Seattle and was it Tennessee that we played? Buffalo, yeah.
By the way, if Stephon Diggs makes one of those 2 catches on, I think at least the second one, I'm pretty sure the Vikings put up at least a field goal, if not a touchdown, on that end of the first half drive.
And that's like one of those things where it's like we don't expect Stephon Diggs to drop 2 balls in any single game this entire year.
100%. And just like you were saying, Sam, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, obviously we know what we can expect from these guys, and players have bad games. And so I'm not concerned about those 2 players whatsoever. But I guess just as a group, everything I've seen this preseason, you say you're concerned, Sam. I guess that's all I'm saying too. Maybe I just have a higher level of concern than you do at this point. Because I was definitely having to hold myself back from having a meltdown during that first half.
But there were people on Twitter melting down saying we need to move Hild as the starting left tackle and Reif to right tackle. Remmers is terrible. I mean, like, come on. We got to find a balance here.
It's a town meeting every time there's a Vikings game on.
Oh, my God. I skip town when that happens. I get out of there because I can't handle it.
Okay, so let's talk about the offensive line, right? There's definitely some concerns along this offensive line. We've been tooting this horn all off season. It's been an issue. I mean, I saw a tweet from a guy today, right? It was basically like he was saying, like, I can't believe all this Sam Bradford hate when all of this is obviously the result of an awful offensive line. And I wanted to retweet that and say, like, I feel like that's the story we've been telling for as long as I've been a Viking. Well, maybe not as long as I've been a Vikings fan. Like, you go back to some of the early years where we had a great offense. But, I mean, the past decade maybe, we've been talking about, well, we need an offensive line so we can evaluate our quarterback play, and it's not fair for our quarterback. And I made the same excuses for Ponder behind a porous offensive line at the time. So this has been an ongoing issue. And as of right now, I would say my general impression is that it's still going to be an issue this year. So I guess my question to you guys is there anything, I guess, how worried are you about the offensive line? And is there anything that we can do at this point to kind of salvage that unit? What changes would you make, if any, to that starting group? So I know, Sam, you're the ham guy. What do you think?
How worried I am, the normal amount. You knew there was going to be a concern coming into this offensive line. I'm happy that everybody's healthy, realistically, and I think on paper and on the field, this offensive line is at the least improved over last year. I think they're run blocking considerably better in the preseason. The ones, dude, I'd love to have 99s up and down the offensive line. That would be awesome. We don't have that. We have to hope for better. And so far, what we've seen is better. Now, it has to be a little better than better in pass protection if we're going to score some points. But the overreactions that Austin brought up, we need to start Rashad Hill at left tackle and move Riley Reif to right, is the most adorable overreaction I've seen in years. But yeah, we'll take the guy that's clearly the best player at tackle on the team, the guy they paid all the money to, and we'll move him to the right side. And the more important side, we'll put this guy who we've seen a little bit and has been pretty good, who is undrafted. We'll just start him there for the season. That's the thing to do. I know Remmers has had a rough go of it. Let's give him a few real games first, and if it still isn't working, let's talk about fixing the right tackle. But why do you basically put 2 positions in flux in order to do that?
Right.
My thing, too, about that is, like, Rashad Hill has played right tackle before.
Yes.
And Riley Reiff is clearly better, at least in what I've seen in his career, at left tackle in Detroit. Why would you mess with that? Why you're thinking about it way too much if you think that's actually the solution here.
It's not Madden. It's not Madden.
As soon as something bad happens, like people want to hit the panic button and they go to the most extreme option. Like I've seen things like Keenum should start at quarterback. I saw
that today. That one was sick. I really liked that one. I really enjoyed that one. That comment was awesome.
It's just as soon as something bad happens, we go to this extreme of, let's churn the roster and figure this out and fix it. It's like these dudes are backups for a reason. They spent millions of dollars on Reiff for a reason. I don't know. It's so early, and
I thought he was solid too against San Fran before he was solid.
Didn't hear his name once.
Who was solid? Reiff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't this all? Nobody's saying Reiff isn't playing well, correct? They're just saying because he was a right tackle last year.
Whatever.
I don't know.
I get it. And wasn't Remmers a left tackle last year?
Yeah.
Maybe we should just switch them. Maybe that's
he's been both too, actually. But
I know. Well, he was
left tackle.
He was right tackle, and then he went to left tackle, and then he's back at right tackle now. Okay, so BJ, what are you doing along the offensive line? Are you making any changes to the starting five?
No, I'm going to try out the same starting five for 4 weeks in a row, and then I'm going to get a sample size off of that during the regular season, and then probably evaluate from there.
So who is that? Who is that starting five? Go ahead and
Riley Reiff on the left side, sticking with Alex Boone at left guard, Pat Elflein at center, Joe Berger at right guard, and everyone's favorite Mike Remmers at right tackle. Yes, I'm going to start the season with Mike Remmers at right tackle. And then I'll put in Rashard Hill as needed after about 4 weeks after I get a solid sample size to evaluate, academically as opposed to reactionary.
Okay. Someone tell me about Alex Boone and the level of concern with Alex Boone.
Not concerned at all. There should be no concern with Alex Boone. I don't see why
there should be no concern with Alex Boone.
I don't see why. People get so emotional. It's an emotional reactionary thing still. They get so fired up about him making these comments and the way he exposed himself to the media. And then you see
wording, phrasing there. Exposing himself
the way he speaks to the media in a very bold way. And then the offensive line as a whole doesn't perform very well, and he's supposed to be this big time free agent signing, turn things around. He didn't really do that. Obviously, he wasn't a superstar, but I don't understand it. I really don't. Nick Easton's been solid at left guard, filling in, but I am not concerned at all about Alex Boone. He's going to go play. He's going to be fine.
I think that there's reason to be concerned about Alex Boone, not necessarily concerned, okay, he's not playing well concerned, like that level. I think that's fair because he hasn't played that well. But the people saying Nick Easton should start over him, what are you doing? What is your mind? What is your mind? He got traded for a 6th round pick after being undrafted from San Diego. That's Easton. So he comes over here. He hasn't done anything except for try to snap a ball and not have it go over well. That's his biggest memory right now in Minnesota is him not being able to snap a ball effectively from the center position. And I know he's been good this preseason, but Taylor Heineke was good in the preseason. You guys won't tell me that he's good either. So, it's just so irrational. There's no connecting thoughts. I just want people to think more and try to stay on the same team. It's if you're going to say Nick Easton is the better left guard, you got to also be in on my train of Taylor Heineke being good because you're basing it off of the same thing.
Okay, so my question is I feel like you guys keep saying you keep justifying putting these players in starting roles because they were drafted high or because they received a big free agency contract.
I hope that I'm not giving that off. If I'm giving off that impression,
that's the impression I'm getting. So is that because I guess what I was going to say is that at what point are we going to just put all this stuff aside with Alex Boone and just talk about the fact that he has not played well and at times he has not looked like the best left guard on this team.
That's based not on even what my opinion at all. That's not my opinion at all. So he's the best left guard on this team, and I don't think it's that close.
I'm with you. I think he was
I agree with that.
The Vikings' best lineman last year.
Other than Berger.
Other than Berger, but it's close. I mean,
Is that really saying anything though?
I think it's saying
Does it matter? If he's the best lineman on the team, you play him. You don't bench him.
No. That's not.
That was what I was going to say. I was going to say what Drew
That's
said,
not the
right?
point Austin was making. He was saying he was the best on the team last season compared to these other guys that are no longer really playing around.
No, I'm saying he was the best on the team last season. They've got a year seeing him. He deserves the benefit of the doubt, even if he's had a rough preseason. That's how I look at it. The dude gets his starting spot because he was the best offensive lineman last year, and he's the presumed starter this year. I've seen people saying he could get cut. I just don't see it happening.
He won't.
Oh my God,
that's crazy. That's such an uninformed take that it's not even worth talking about because there's so many reasons he won't be cut.
Money? And I'm sitting here saying, dude's the best, and you want Easton to be his backup. And if Easton goes in, fine. But, again, we get a little taste of, Easton's been good. Easton and Elflein together, they've been great. Maybe we should consider it during the regular season. And I just think we're jumping the gun when we do that.
Yeah. I understand all your guys' opinions. I guess I just feel like we're letting a lot of these guys off the hook, and we're letting the team off the hook right now with a lot of the stuff we've seen so far. But
Brett, in this case,
Sean.
I actually... Oh.
If I may interject, Sam.
Yes, you may. You should more.
I've got
you.
a solution to all this.
Great.
And it's actually
I
pretty
got Rick
ingenious.
Spielman on speed dial, so I'm going to let him know when we get done.
It's pretty ingenious now that I think about it. Everybody knows Mike Zimmer utilizes a defensive line rotation. Why not do that for the offensive line?
I let one of you guys that are a little bit more informed with offensive play calling answer that one. I'm just something.
Austin, you shake your head.
Continuity.
I was saying I'm not. I was going to say continuity. I was shaking my head because I don't think I'm the person to ask. But
why not?
I
think you're the person to ask.
Okay, I think you want offensive linemen playing together in a unit. I know that's a stat that gets thrown around, how many starting five played together all 16 games. And I think you want guys in silos. You want the left tackle and left guard to play together because footwork is so intertwined. You want left guard, center, right guard to play together because they're pulling, they're communicating. You want that communication to be consistent. And, in a perfect world, your starting guard knows the same calls as your backup guard, knows the same calls as your center, backup center, so on and so forth. But you also want the same guys playing together because I think there's a lot to be said for chemistry, even among offensive linemen. So there's little things if your split is 2 feet instead of 2.5 feet, that makes a difference. If, the center steps 6 inches further than the other center, that makes a difference for every guy playing. So you'd have to almost get robots to rotate in and out to make that work. And I just don't think it's realistic. But I like the idea in a perfect world. I don't want to bash it.
I think it's because like you said, there's a lot more. They're required to work as a team a lot more, and what the guy next to you is doing dictates kind of what you're doing. Whereas along a defensive line, you're acting a lot more independent, right? I mean, a lot of maybe if you're stunting or something along the defensive line, that requires some level of coordination, but you're almost acting kind of independent. Whereas on the offensive line, you're reactionary and kind of depending on that guy next to you. So I mean, that would be my guess, but what do I know, man? I don't know.
Why not
I agree. I like thinking outside the box. I'm a proponent.
Got to try something, right?
Yeah, I'm a proponent of the 9 closers theory in baseball. Start a different guy each inning, see what happens.
I'm a proponent of drafting more offensive linemen instead of running backs and wide receivers. I mean,
me too. Oh,
but,
yeah.
But drafting them early.
Hey, what do I know?
I like Sean's theory
for the past 4 years.
Brett, I just wanted to say really quick, I kind of agree with you on the Boone, on your fear-mongering about Boone. I don't think he's worse than Nick Easton, but I think how good he is has been over-exaggerated. Grading offensive line is difficult.
What are you looking at?
Listen,
what's your Twitter feed like? If that's your thing.
I am an offensive line film junkie, okay? I've been studying this for decades. I don't know. I just think he hasn't had much push in the run game, and I think he's been okay. So I'm definitely not advocating not starting him. I think he should be the starting left guard. I just think that he hasn't been that good. I don't know, when you brought up his comments to the media and all that, are people taking that into consideration?
I think I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking too far into that, but I feel like I see people that are like fed up with that whole mantra, and then they're not seeing it on the field. So then they think, okay, having a guy that's probably worse than him play at left guard instead of him is going to solve that. Which having that loud of a mouth behind him on the bench, probably not a good idea.
No, I like his attitude. I like the nastiness. I like the brashness. I don't know. I appreciate that because I think it's a breath of fresh air. Who knows?
I've said since day one, he has the type of personality that you love to have on your team when things are going well, and the type of personality you hate to have on your team when things are going poorly. And I still stand behind that 100%. And yeah, it does bother. I'm not dictating anything that I'm saying necessarily off of an emotional reaction to the things he's saying, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me somewhat to see all of this talking, and just not seeing the play back it up on the field whatsoever.
See, but last year, like when things went sour, I don't feel like he was a problem. I feel like he still said all the right things. I listened to him on the radio every week, and he just kept saying, we got to get it fixed. We got, in his own way.
I forget. He's made a couple comments. I don't have them written down or my wallpaper, to piss me off every morning when I see it and get me riled up or anything. But I can't remember exactly what he said. But there's been a couple things that he's said.
He told the fans, I think, after the first home game against Green Bay that they needed to shut the what up. Offense.
Fair comment.
No, for the record, I'm not upset with that.
That was after the wasn't that during the Dallas game? Because I remember they were in the red zone. I think that was Dallas. They were in the red zone and they were too loud and they had to take a delayed game or something.
Damn it, Austin! Was that me and you?
That was me and you. We were screaming.
We were being really loud.
It was on you guys. There was shade at Brett and Austin in Vikings territory.
I was purposefully trying to sabotage Alex Boone so I could actually talk about him later. So it worked.
I don't know, dude. So you other guys, not Brett and me, do the numbers or your objective analysis of his play lead you to think that he's very good?
No.
Very good? No.
But good?
Clearly the best left guard on the team? Yeah.
Sure. And I agree with that.
I think he's good. I mean, he's been Pro Bowl caliber, like
right.
3 or 4 years in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his niche has always been run blocking, so that it's going to help to have someone that can run block effectively playing next to him. So I don't think that we've seen all he has to offer just yet. I think he's an above-average left guard, and the Vikings are getting, what they paid for to some degree. They got the knockoff brand instead of Kalichi Osemele, and one of them's an All-Pro, and one of them's, doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you
I can't imagine playing next to TJ Clemmings helped him either last year.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't a good situation for him.
Agreed. The way I sum it up in my head is Alex Boone is not the problem on this offense.
I would. There's probably at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 offensive linemen that you could blame before Alex Boone so far, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, fine. Whatever. And for the record, I'm not suggesting Easton should start over him. I was just curious to what you guys thought about it. I do think Boone should be the starter, but I think I'm a lot lower on him than a lot of other people are. A lot of you guys are. So anyway, I feel like we've talked. I wanted to talk about how bad the secondary looked. I wanted to talk about Bradford. I won't say how bad Bradford looked. I was going to let you guys say that because it would look biased if I said it. But let's just switch it over to some positivity, I guess, at this point. Do you guys want to talk about Austin's favorite subject?
We have to be positive?
We don't have to. By all means, we could talk about the secondary and Trey Waynes and
Let's do that.
Yeah?
PJ wants to be negative. Shocker.
All right, I'm leaving.
I prefer New Austin's take.
All right, hold on. We're going to do a raise of hands. Who wants optimism at this point?
Yeah, sure. Just because I want to talk about Stacey Coley. I want to talk about Stacey Coley. So.
And then
I'll put my Bradford jersey on.
All right, we're going to go optimism because I think Austin's afraid to raise his hand, so I think that'll make.
I just raised it.
Oh well, you raised it late.
Oh well, whatever.
All right, so let's talk about who looked good this game. Why don't you tell us about Stacey Coley, Drew?
What's up?
Why don't you tell us about Stacey Coley? You said you want to talk about Stacey Coley.
Oh, well, he's not going to be on the roster. Like I said, May 1st.
Wait, hold on. What did you say? He's not going to be on the roster?
I said he will be on the roster.
That's not what you said, but...
Stacy Coley will be on the 52-man roster. I've said it now for 3 months.
Yeah.
He's clearly the best out of Ronnie Adams, Jarius Wright. If you want to throw R.J. Shelton and Caleb Jones and Moritz Bringer in there too, obviously that's a pretty obvious statement. But he's at the very least the 6th best receiver out there, and you can definitely argue that he's the 5th best. Behind, it would be Diggs, Thielen, Floyd, Treadwell, Coley.
Probably.
So his route running is. I mean, I make the comparison to Stephon Diggs when Diggs was a rookie. He looks a lot like him. Plays a lot like him.
And did you know Diggs looks like Antonio Brown? So I mean, A plus B.
So if you really want to make a stretch here, like right? Stacy Coley is actually
Antonio Brown
light. So
right.
Light.
Yeah.
Light.
Diet caffeine-free Antonio Brown.
Light.
Okay. What about you, Sean? What positive takeaways did you have from the Niners game?
Aside from Marshall Cohen's 58-yard field goal, I thought Jerick McKinnon looked great as a kick returner.
Yeah, there we go. There's a good one.
There's a hot take.
Oh yeah, I like him back there.
He does look good.
Did he win that spot?
Yes.
If he did, then Rodney Adams is getting axed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Adams is not making the 53. I don't think.
But he has the most receiving touchdowns for the Vikings this preseason. That's what the box score told me.
It's the preseason.
What else, Sean? You got anything else? Anything else positive in all this darkness?
Other than that, Danielle Hunter doing great as usual. Mackenzie Alexander actually stepped up, played better this week. Case Keenum, I think, took the backup spot as far as quarterback goes. Unquestionably.
Hold on. BJ, can we pause right here for a second? As a Heineke fan, you got to admit, I know we don't like Keenum, but you got to admit, Keenum was looking hot.
Yeah, he looked really good.
I know you could say it's against second teamers, but he was making some.
How much confidence do we have now in the backup quarterbacks? I mean, Keenum, I think this whole preseason has looked really good.
Yeah, he's looked all right. He looks good. He's looked all right.
Heineke's been pretty, lackluster.
He's been roller coastery. He's been really good at points, and he's been really bad at points.
Yeah.
Keenum has been a straight line, nah.
Wow.
Good enough.
I don't know about that.
That's fine. Yeah, that's good enough. That's
This
good.
looks more like Sean Hill.
Yeah, I feel like a little higher, maybe, but.
He's been okay. He's been a solid backup quarterback. I'm not like.
So he hasn't exceeded your expectations. I mean, obviously
He's exceeded mine.
He has exceeded my expectations, but my expectations were very low.
Okay. All right, whatever.
Yes, yeah. I'm not here to tell you Case Keenum's played poorly. I'm just here to tell you he hasn't outshined Taylor Heineke to the point where I'm like, for sure backup. Heineke has done some good things too.
See him die for that pylon? Think he didn't die for that pylon?
Yeah, the heart. You can't develop heart.
Can't
That comes with the player on his sleeve.
All right.
Brett actually had a couple more things. I just wanted to point out, I thought these were kind of interesting things that I noted during the game. Thielen seeing most of the snaps at slot receiver.
Wide receiver 1.
Rather than Diggs. I thought that was interesting. 20 of 33 snaps at slot, which means he could end up leading the team in catches depending on where Bradford's looking.
He will end up leading the team in catches.
And yards.
That's a hot take.
And I say that because I think Diggs will miss a few games. So I think it'll be a lot similar situation as last year, with another year for Thielen to get better.
It's probably fair.
1,200 yards.
Could keep going, Sean. What other interesting things?
The last thing, both Murray and Cook, I think the Vikings have 2 3-back receivers there, 3 down running backs, I should say. And I think that's a luxury to have. Not many teams have that. So
I would agree with that too.
Where that goes, I don't know, but I think that's puts the Vikings in good position to get their running game going.
So what do you guys think is going to be like the split between those two? Now that we may see Murray again Thursday, but we've seen probably all we're going to see from Cook this preseason. At least I'd hope so.
Yeah.
So what do you guys imagine the split's going to be between, let's just say, all three running backs? Sean, what do you think?
It's a good question. I think Cook's unquestionably the starter. As far as putting a number on it, maybe throwing it out there 60, 30, 10 as far as touches between Cook, Murray, McKinnon.
Do you think it's going to be more situational, or do you think it's going to be more drive-based? Like we see Cook for 3 drives and then we see Murray for 1 drive, or do you think it's going to be more of a situation where we see Murray between, until you get to in between the 10-yard line and the goal line?
If I was an offensive coordinator and using my player strengths, it would be situational. I don't know, Austin, would you agree?
Yeah, I'd make it situational. I would play Cook 80% of the time. I backed that up. 75, 20, and then 5 for McKinnon. So 20% for Murray. But it all depends how I don't know how they're going to use him. That's speculation. If they use him at the goal line, then I would expect Murray gets more touches. But I have to say, I know this isn't a positive, but does anyone think Murray looks like a big puppy that doesn't know how to use his body when he runs? He looks seriously. He looks so goofy when he runs.
Incredibly sloppy. Hoping it's rust. A little worried.
I don't know. Anyway, that was my point.
Wow. So we basically went to optimism for you, and then you come back with the negativity while we're all trying to be optimistic.
Good.
That was positivity. He's saying he's adorable.
Oh,
he looks like a little puppy.
Oh yeah, puppies are always positive. So
like a puppy with big feet that doesn't know how to run.
Right. That you just say "aw" when you see.
It's a really weird comparison.
Sean, I'm sorry. Sean, those were all really good takeaways, man. Sam, what about you, man?
Rookies in the trenches. Again, Jaleel Johnson. Shortly after they drafted him, I said that I thought he'd be starting at 3 tech some point this season. And since they've moved him there, it was curious to me why they were even giving him work at nose, unless just to expand his versatility. But since he's been playing 3 technique, he's looked excellent. That's obviously his natural position. He will be the eventual replacement for Sharif Floyd. I don't know if he starts week 1, but he will start at some point this year. Pat Elflein, I think we're looking at a week 1 starter. They had been a little hesitant to have him in the starting rotation through camp, through preseason, but at this point, he's not without his handful of rookie mistakes, but he is the best option to that position. Austin in Belisle's burning takes last week said he's going to be the best rookie out of this Vikings draft class. I think that is definitely a burning take, but I like it. I think Pat Elflein is the real deal and exactly what we thought we were getting when we drafted him. So really impressed with both those guys. This is going to be a good draft class. You got Drew's guy, Coley. You got Dalvin Cook plus those two just right there. This is I'm done. This is perfect.
You had a really delayed reaction to that little bomb.
Sorry, I was staring at the rest of you guys, and then I eventually made my way down there to the right, and it just as the mushroom cloud was crescendo.
Beautiful way to say that.
Phrase it again.
I agree with you. Like this could be another stellar draft class for Spielman. I mean, Cook, Elflein, Jaleel Johnson. Are we going to throw Tayshaun Bauer into that? Stacy Coley.
Yeah.
I mean, it's looking really good so far. I mean, granted, it's just preseason, right? I mean, what does preseason mean? It doesn't mean anything unless it's positive takeaways. But
we're Midwesterners.
Exactly,
right.
making progress there.
So, Austin, give us your positive takeaways.
Let me get out my notebook with my many page. No, I'm kidding. I don't.
Your notebook of positivity. You only take positive notes in it.
I know it's not saying much, but I thought Treadwell looked comfortable, and I think that's a big step for a guy who was dealing with injuries last year. I thought he looked like he knew what he was doing against zone coverage. I thought he looked like he understood his responsibility as a receiver. You know what? I'm not saying Bradford looked good, but dude throws a pretty ball, and I like watching him play quarterback because when he zips the ball, it looks good. I'll say that. He checked it down too much. Fine, I'll admit that. But he's a.
Brett just got physically ill when you said Bradford.
All right, I think are we going to talk about their sack when Remmers got backed into Bradford's lap? Are we going to make a judgment on that? Because I thought he could have stepped up and avoided it.
Agreed, Drew.
My positive take. Anyway,
I cannot believe you had you picked Bradford as a positive takeaway. Are you kidding me?
That was for you. Anyway,
are you trying to bait me into getting really pissed off during this episode or something? Or what?
Yes. So Treadwell looked good. The Bradford thing was a joke, even though I kind of believe it.
It was real. That was real.
That totally was real. No, it was real. Don't let Austin make you believe that was not real. That was real.
What else?
I like it better if it's real.
Tashawn Bauer looked good. I thought he continues to flash. Johnson looks good. Elfline looked decent. I really liked how Reef looked. You didn't hear his name, and all we've heard for the past 2 or 3 years is offensive tackles' names for the wrong reasons. And then other than that, there weren't a lot of positives.
Heineke.
No, we're saving that one, Sam. Come on, man.
I was watching Game of Thrones at the end of the game, so I missed it. I missed the win, so
I had to go back after Game of Thrones and watch the end of the game.
I didn't see it. But yeah, that's it for me. And as for Drew, your point about the stepping up, I don't know. I mean, maybe he didn't take a big enough step when he got to the top of his drop back up, but Remmers was in his lap by the time he got to the top of his drop. And I'm talking not just in his lap, but falling backwards into him.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Bradford needs to recognize that, though.
Okay, you know what?
He's got a peripheral vision at some point. Like,
I am so sick of this, and this isn't a dig at the climb the pocket people, but I am sick of climb the pocket. Stop tweeting it. Honestly, just stop.
Such groupthink.
We get it. He should step up. But are we going to talk about the play where he avoided a safety by rolling out and doing exactly what Teddy Bridgewater would have done in that?
No, Teddy Bridgewater thrown a touchdown on that rollout.
That is exactly my problem with the whole. Somebody's taking a picture right now.
Yeah.
That is exactly my problem with the whole Bradford-Teddy dynamic is we get the other side and you pick the side, regardless of what side it is, but at least acknowledge that both do a lot of things really well.
Yeah.
So acknowledge that Bradford is super accurate. Acknowledge that Bradford did make really good plays in the Niners game, a couple of them. Acknowledge that his passes to Diggs were both lasers that were dropped. At least acknowledge that if you're going to be all over him for this one play that in a preseason game in the grand scheme does not matter.
I agree with you 100%, and I basically said this as much to Austin last night because we were basically having this argument when he was beating me in FIFA, which never freaking happens. He's had a lucky streak the past 2 times we played. I plan on rectifying that situation soon here. But basically, like, I agree with you 100%, Drew. However, I feel like, and what I told Austin was, if both players are 100%, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater's strengths are better suited for the way
I agree with that too.
For the way this offensive line is currently playing.
Well, I said I did too. I agree with
but when both are healthy, and that's completely irrelevant right now.
Yeah, it is irrelevant.
And I said that too.
Even if he does get healthy, the guy hasn't played football for a year, so he's not going to be the starting quarterback. Yeah. So that conversation is still irrelevant until he's actually healthy and has had time to work. And then if Bradford does struggle, then we can have a conversation.
I disagree with Austin's take that people need to stop tweeting "climb the pocket." I think Bradford has shown really awful pocket presence. I think he's shown really awful diagnosing a play pre-snap, picking up blitzes that are going to be coming at him. Like, I don't think obviously he has the more talented arm, but I feel like he could definitely improve in those areas, and it's been hurting us this preseason when you've been what Sam?
No, I agree. He's definitely below average in pocket presence. Do you think it's like, what about the play where if he would have stepped up, he would have been sacked, and he rolled out to his left and had a big gain to Thielen? Like, that's pocket presence. It absolutely is. The pocket collapsed and he got out of it. Okay, well, whatever you want to call it. If you don't want to call that pocket presence, I call it
escapability.
Yeah, that's more like it was the last second, so he turned around and ran away as fast as he could. What I'm talking about is like seconds. Feeling the pressure from your right side. So before the guy gets there, stepping up into the left a little bit where you know you're going to have a hole, or diagnosing the blitz before the play and knowing that you're going to have a lot more pressure on your right. So you're automatically inclined to start moving to your left when you do start stepping up. Like
I would argue that he has been diagnosing pressure. He knows there'll be pressure on every play. That's why he checks it down so much. The play that we're all talking about, real quick, where he could have stepped up, I agree with Drew and Brett. He tried stepping up, I think, but he could have done a better job of it. The edge defender who came around Remmers met him at the bottom of his drop.
Yeah.
Literally, as he was taking the last step, the defender came around and
that was also the play Dalvin made the elite pass or blitz pickup.
Incredible, coming from the other side. Yeah, absolutely. But he was a little late on it, and they were both meeting him. I mean, of course he was late. It's a very difficult play to make. But they're both meeting him at the bottom of his drop. So I just have a hard time really blaming a quarterback for not stepping up when you can't even complete your drop back without having a defender in your face.
Yeah.
That's fair, too.
But I think that play is not – I know we're kind of honing in on that play, but I don't think that play is the only example of what I'm talking about.
But that's where my thing about stop tweeting about it, because that's the play that's been tweeted about. Oh, you should climb the pocket. And
now, I think the same people are also saying that Remmers was bad, but you have to pick. That has to be a play that you identify as bad, because he was also pushed back several yards on that play. So if you're saying Remmers is bad, and then you have to acknowledge that as one of the plays, I would assume. So you can't just dismiss all blame on Remmers for there. But
I think there's a couple things, and I won't go into it. I'd probably write about it instead of droning on about it. But a couple things. We know Sam Bradford's limitations. The dude he's not Norv Turner's quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater was for how many years did Teddy Bridgewater play healthy? 2? 3? 2? 2 years. He's playing in Norv Turner's offense. It's a little bit different. He's doing 7-step drops, 5-step drops, 3-step drops, all of it. You don't see Sam Bradford doing that. That's not Sam Bradford's strength. So I think the idea of climbing a pocket out of a 3-step drop is important, but I don't think it's as exaggerated out of something like a 7-step drop, a 5-step drop. When you're building a pocket, you're taking time to let plays develop. There's differences. I don't think there are apples to oranges comparisons in these two different offenses. And I think understanding Sam Bradford's strengths, you're not expecting him to hold onto the ball like Teddy Bridgewater used to. I just don't think that's realistic given the way this offense operates. And we saw it this preseason, crossing routes, hitches, releases out of the backfield, design screenplays. I think the team gets that Sam Bradford is not a guy that you're going to expect to, operate a pocket like someone like Teddy Bridgewater. Can he do a better job climbing the pocket? Yes, he can. He doesn't have great pocket presence. I agree with you, Brett. But I also think we continue to expect something out of Bradford that we shouldn't. Like, if we just come to terms with the fact that it's not his strength, let's stop bashing him for it. He sucks at it. Fine. We're not going to get anything else out of it. I don't expect more because I shouldn't. And I'm done.
Boom. All right, Mr. Positivity.
It wasn't positive.
BJ, close us out with the positivity. Nothing?
I mean, you guys mentioned Laquan Treadwell. You mentioned Stacey Coley, with the exception of him not running out of bounds when he should have. He was very good. Sean Borman.
I have a positive. Sneaky good player in camp is Willie Beavers. He's going to make the roster. He's been really good against the
Rams. I like that take.
He has been good.
He's been pretty good.
He's been the lesser of 3 evils between him, Searles, and Clemmings. So yeah, that's a fair take. I don't know. It was a really sloppy, ugly game. I mean, the positives that I take are that Dalvin Cook looks very good. Stacey Coley looks better than advertised when he was drafted. I thought that Jaleel Johnson looked really good again. He's spot rotation ready. Same with Tashawn Bauer. I think he can already be a rotational guy. I think that Mackenzie Alexander didn't look good. I thought Trey Waynes looked better. I thought that Trey Waynes looked like a number 2 cornerback, as he should. I thought all the number 1 guys can all play a whole lot better. I mean, I'm basically giving you Sam Bradford's press conference right now. The team did not look good, but they can be better, and we know they can be better, and we expect better. Some of those expectations need to be shifted a little bit, like Austin just said, I think. I think that we need to be I think that we need to understand that we're not dealing with Dante Culpepper in the pocket right now. He's not going to rocket it downfield 80 yards to some Hall of Fame wide receiver, one of his pick. That's not the option that he has at his disposal right now, and we're not using 7-step drops for that reason. So I don't know, man. I don't really have any major positive takeaways except for I still think this team is good, and I think it'll be ready to go against Sean Payton week 1.
That's pretty positive.
Well said.
Yeah.
Can we confirm that? Like, the biggest news is that Taylor Heinicke is an absolute gamer. Like, come on, that's.
How do you get to your positive takes and not mention Taylor Heinicke?
I mean, we knew that already.
You knew that already.
I mean, no, I'm serious. We knew 2 years ago that he is a gamer. That he's like that. That he, will play through injury. He's got that Matthew Stafford syndrome to him, where you play until your arm falls off, and that's good and bad.
Or in his case, your leg.
Yeah, or your foot. Yeah, I mean,
and he is a great friend.
Heinicke played very well. I was impressed with him, but he played one series. So if I'm going to quote sample size on everyone else, I got to say the same thing about Heinicke, right?
That is fair.
Fair.
You look good. I mean, I was happy. I threw a Sally over it. I was excited. I said some stuff on Twitter that I shouldn't have said. That's normal. It's standard protocol. I expect that type of performance from him, just like Dawson expects certain things from Sam Bradford. I expect certain things from Taylor Heinicke. So good job, Taylor.
Shout out to Taylor Heinicke. All right. So I want to really quick. I want to do some. We're coming up on the roster cuts, so I want to do some roster predictions. I'm basically just looking for I'm not looking for you to give me your 53-man roster prediction, but give me maybe just like a surprise cut and a surprise makes the team. You kind of ruined yours, Drew, but we'll start with you anyway. So you already have your surprise makes the team and Willie Beavers, unless you want to throw out another one. But you want to give us a surprise cut?
Stacey Coley, which might not be a surprise anymore, but Stacey Coley, Willie Beavers will make the team. I'll go with Emmanuel Lemur.
Sorry,
I'll save you guys. Jerry's right.
You broke up a little bit, at least on my end.
Emmanuel Lemur, however his name is said. Number 59.
59. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'd agree with that. Sean?
Well, thank you, Drew, for saving me. Jerry is right, because, I mean, at the same time, how can you cut this guy? I mean, all he does is catch first downs and make plays.
Which Sam Bradford doesn't throw very often, but,
Well, he'll check it down
Sorry,
on Jerry.
I couldn't help myself.
An extra yard or two. Between him and, I'd say, Kyle Carter makes the team.
So your prediction is Wright makes the team,
that's
correct?
Good.
Wright is cut.
Wright is cut. Oh, okay.
Makes way for a Kyle Carter or Bucky Hodges.
Okay. All right. Sam? Surprise cut, surprise keep?
I don't know how big a surprise it is, but I think it goes a little against flow right now. I think Will Sutton gets cut and Detone Jones makes the team based on Zimmer's comments. I know a lot of people are down on Jones right now. I think he ends up squeaking it out. And I think Will Sutton is just a victim of numbers on the defensive line. I don't have high confidence in this one, so I don't say it will happen. But I don't think it's as big a lock that Bucky Hodges makes the 53 as a lot of people think.
That's a good one, too.
This coaching staff is he's not refined enough for their liking. They've shown big reluctance to play players who aren't refined in their rookie years.
Well, they've shown reluctance.
It has something to do with fullback, too. If they keep a fullback, then they're not keeping 4 tight ends.
Absolutely.
So CJ Hand's on the roster.
They've also shown reluctance to play players to their strengths, right? Would you agree with that statement?
What do you mean?
Not intentionally, maybe on accident.
Not letting Bucky Hodges be what he is, which is basically an oversized wide receiver.
Yes, like what they did with Patterson.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Even though I blamed a lot of that on Norv, but
no, totally. You're saying they didn't use Patterson's strengths the way Musgrave did. Basically, they forced him into sort of big round hole.
I guess what I'm saying is that's
because his strengths didn't fit their goal. The offense wasn't going to be centered around Cordero Patterson when he was the third or fourth probably the third best option to get the ball in his hands. I mean, I know he's electric with his ball in his hands, but you can't center your offense around one guy. I mean, you can.
Gadget plays every time.
But what happened with the Percy Harvin year? Percy Harvin put up a fantastic year. What happened to the Vikings?
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, Percy Harvin's a different player from Cordell Patterson. I mean, quite.
But the point that I was making, they're different because Percy Harvin can actually run routes. But
yes,
the difference here, or like the correlation that I'm making, is that the offense that Bill Musgrave ran with Percy Harvin as like the guy is the same type of thing that worked for Patterson really early in his career in 2014 against Baltimore. Baltimore is the big one, right? The one that everyone remembers, the 80-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was textbook, like neutralizing his inability to run routes and create separation by himself by basically creating separation off the line of scrimmage by design, which is what they did with Percy Harvin too. And Bucky Hodges, I don't think has the type of skill set where like you can just integrate him immediately into what Pat Shurmur tries to do, unless it's simply running those seam routes up the sideline, or excuse me, up the seam. Obviously, if they're seam routes, that's he looked really good doing that against Seattle, but you can't run that all game. So I just don't think that there's 20 snaps out there for Bucky Hodges right now. He's just a situational usage guy until he's able to correct the rest of his his skill set and become more well-rounded and be an inline tight end. Until then, he's just wide receiver 8 at this point, pretty much, because he's the least refined out of most of the receivers.
That's all I was saying, and I agree with you, yeah.
Do you think that not getting out of bounds in that 2-minute drill has something to do with – I know it's not like the determining factor, but just adds to this argument that he's not refined enough?
I think that's all it is, really, is that it's good fodder for people that are not on the Bucky Hodges train. I mean, Stacey Coley made the same mistake. You throw darts at –
It was worse for Coley, though. It was worse for Coley.
You can play. Every one of these players
this far from the sideline.
Every one of these players is a dartboard, right? And we can throw darts at every single one of them, and some of them are going to be closer to a bullseye than others. With Stacey Coley, I mean – The mistakes that he have made haven't been fundamental errors, so for that reason, I like him a lot more than Bucky Hodges. With him, it's mental mistakes, not running the correct routes, not running to the right route depth, and not running good routes, period, and just basically using his body, which he does well. He does use his body, but he's a physical receiver at the point of attack, but that's, you got to be able to get to the point of attack and put yourself in good position in one-on-one coverage in order to be utilized if that's the strength of your skill set. So he's got a way to go, and I think that, was it Sean or Sam, one of you guys pointed out that Kyle Carter simply looks better right now. And this is a primary example of, I think Zimmer takes the guy that fits the roster better as opposed to the guy that you invested as a draft pick.
Yeah.
So you think that Hodges doesn't make the team?
I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying if they keep 3 tight ends, TE3 for me is not Bucky Hodges. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
If they keep 4, or if they keep 5 receivers plus a 4th tight end that basically is a receiver, that would, in this example, you'd be cutting Jarius Wright probably. Then I'm fine with keeping Bucky Hodges. I'm simply saying Kyle Carter is the more NFL-ready tight end right now over Bucky Hodges.
You could see a situation, too, where while Floyd's out, maybe they keep that extra tight end, and then when he comes back, they... But, okay, so Sam, your cut was Bucky Hodges. Did you have a keep?
Well, no, I think it's obvious. I mean, I think Bauer is going to be kept. And, yeah, Detone Jones, I guess, was mine. I don't know how out there that is. Depends on who you're listening to.
Yeah, I've heard it go.
I think he's fine. I think he's fine, too, Sam. I've seen a lot of people throw Detone Jones' name around as a guy that's going to get cut, but I just don't see it. I think that he's as good of depth as you can get in the interior because he can move around so much. And I mean, do I have to bring up flexibility and versatility one more time to prove a point? I don't think so. I think we're past that.
No, exactly.
Yeah. That's why I like Detone Jones. That's why I don't believe, the hype that I've seen on Twitter and other places of people saying, oh, he's going to get cut. He hasn't done anything right. Well, no, it's just he hasn't flashed because he's making other people look good in the process, like Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr.
Yeah. Okay, Austin, cut, keep?
I don't know if it really surprises, but I would say TJ Clemmings gets cut, which I don't know is...
In terms of dead cap, that's the surprise because we would look at his number this year and probably wouldn't think that it would happen.
What is it? Do you know
what
it is?
I think it's 465.
Yeah,
I want to say
they've got.
It's not a ton, but it's enough to kind of be a differentiator if he's the same level as another player.
He feels like an investment that they really, were behind, even though he was terrible and just didn't work out. And I think it's more cutting their losses and saying, you know what, you're going to be better somewhere else. kind of like Robert Aguayo, the kicker out of the Buccaneers, right? Like you spend a relatively high draft pick on this guy and it doesn't work out, and you just say, you know what, it's over. A guy I think makes it, and I think there were some questions around it, would be Jabari Price, who always seems to live on the edge. I thought he's been okay this preseason. I think that hit he had that led to the interception is going to be a nice little standout moment for him. Just given the questions about cornerback depth, I think he makes it through the cuts.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. BJ, close us out with your surprise keep and cut.
I'm going to keep Anton Exum. I think he's been excellent through training camp and the preseason. I think they, again, offer so much flexibility and versatility, just being able to play safety and nickel cornerback, a couple of positions that are sort of in flux right now. So I like keeping him for sure. I guess my surprise cut, I don't know how many surprises there are that you guys haven't made already. I thought that Jarius Wright is a good candidate to be a, quote, surprise cut just because of his salary this year. Detone Jones is another nice one, but again, I don't think that he's going to get cut either.
Mitch Leidner.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Surprise cut is that Mitch Leidner gets cut tomorrow instead of in a week.
Ooh,
He's got to go. Like, that's just... I can't believe he's on the team.
I got a surprise cut for you guys.
Let's hear it.
Marcus Sherrills.
No.
Don't be that guy.
I'm just playing. We say it every year. It's a joke. It's a joke.
I'm not laughing.
So who's your surprise cut then?
Oh, I honestly didn't prepare. I honestly don't have one. So, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. Look, man, I'm just the ringleader here, okay?
How about Taylor Heineke?
I'm not supposed to answer these questions. The most interesting thing to me is wide receiver, honestly, what they're going to do at wide receiver, just because the Michael Floyd situation complicates it even further. So I don't know, man. One of the things I had for us to talk about tonight, but we ran out of time, was like, what do you do with Jarius Wright, Coley, and Adams? Like, you're basically going to have to pick two, I think. So
right. Well, and Jarius Wright didn't play at all against the 49ers. So they either know what they have in him.
They know what they have in him.
Don't want him to get hurt. Don't run the risk of the injury, or he's gone.
Yeah,
he didn't play at all. I don't think.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think if I'm making the decision, I cut Wright because, like you said, we know what we have in him, and I think Stacy and Coley and Rodney Adams offer too much upside based on what we've seen this preseason.
Wright's not flexible.
Yeah,
he's only slot.
So he's dependable, but he's not. He has a high floor, low ceiling, and I think your two shiny new toys at receiver have higher ceilings than him. So for that reason, I guess I'd have to let go of Wright. What's up, Sean?
To go along with your point there, Brett, Jarius Wright, $2.5 million this year. The rookies, $450K.
Well, but the problem here is that Wright has some dead money, but it's not as much as he had last year. So,
dead cap.
What'd you say?
It's like 1.6 dead cap at the most.
Still a pretty hefty dead cap, but I mean,
yeah,
I don't think it's enough to where it's going to influence that decision.
Trade him. Yeah,
we've been saying trade Jarius Wright for like 2 seasons.
Let's trade him for Joe Thomas.
Yeah,
let's go. All right, guys. Well, we had like a fun grab bag wrap up tonight, but I don't think we're going to do it because we are running very long right now. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and we appreciate all the viewers out there who are still watching or who watched at all. Even if you're fast forwarding through the episode or something, you somehow found your way to the end. We appreciate you. So the next game is on Thursday. We're not going to do a live post-game show, but we're probably going to have a show recapping that at some point after the game. But this is kind of cool. I don't know if you guys know this, right? There's this subscribe feature on YouTube. So if you click the subscribe button, you'll be notified on your phone whenever we upload a video, or you'll be notified when we go live, which was kind of funny when I accidentally went live not too long ago, and people probably watched me pick my nose for a minute until I realized that we were live. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to get at is click that subscribe button because you'll be notified as soon as we go live during the regular season, which is kind of awesome. Shout out to our guys wearing our shirts. You can find all those on Amazon. We'll throw those in the comments. Share the video with your friends and family. Like the video. And that's it. We love you guys. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Peace.